Hello.
I'd like to welcome the audience to the May 19th, 2020 Parish Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Would you all please stand while Mr. LaSalle Williams says the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance?
Flag is
Dear Lord, we come thanking Thee for allowing us to see another blessed day. Thank You for Your suffering, Your dying, shedding blood for the remission of our sins. The third day You rose, all power is in Your hand, and we thank You. We ask Your presence to come in this meeting tonight. We ask a blessing upon this board and also this staff. And let us not forget those who suffer from the virus throughout the land. But let us be reminded that whatever happens, that You are in control. You said You'd never leave us, and we ask You to strengthen our faith, that we believe in You, that we may help make this world a better place. This we offer tonight is our prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
We turn to the right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Christie, would you please call roll?
Chair Kirk Smith,
Here.
Vice Chair Julia Dickerson. Here. Ms. Latricia Cobb. Here. Mr. Keith Dubrock.
Here.
Mr. Art Little. Here. Ms. Sharon Galicia. Ms. Janelle Hyatt. Here. Mr. Kyle Link. Mr. Jake Porsche.
Here.
Mr. Gary Navarre.
Here.
And Mr. LaSalle Williams.
Here.
Thank you, Christie. Our procedures have been adjusted to follow social distancing protocol. This is an 11-member board. It will take a majority of those members present to grant or deny any request heard tonight. The chair will refrain from voting unless the vote might affect the outcome. The meeting will be conducted with me reading the request from the agenda. The planning staff will give a presentation and report their recommendations. If the applicant would like to add to the staff's presentation, or if someone from the audience has comments, they will need to fill out a blue request to appear form located on the round table in the lobby. The form must be given to a staff member prior to the reading of the agenda item. When it's your turn to speak, you will be asked to proceed to the second floor meeting room. Please come to the microphone, state your name, address, and the nature of your request. As required by this board's bylaws, in all cases, the proponents will be limited to 10 minutes. Opponents will be granted 10 minutes as well, with each speaker allowed no more than 3 minutes. I recommend that a spokesperson be selected if there's a large group wanting to speak on the agenda item. If 4 or more speaker request forms are submitted, the time allowed for the individual speakers will be limited based upon the number of forms submitted. The chair has the right to limit speakers who present redundant information or personal attacks. In unique situations, the chair may extend or the board may vote to extend the time allotted to speakers. After discussion, the board will vote on each request. I will announce the decision of the board after the vote. The exceptions and variances are final tonight. The rezoning cases will go before the police jury for final action on May 21st, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. This meeting is being filmed by the Calcasieu Parish Government Channel and can be viewed on Wednesday and Thursday following the meeting. For additional run dates, check the website at www.cppj@calcasieuParish.gov. Channel 5 in Lake Charles, Sulphur, Moss Bluff, Westlake, Vinton, DeQuincy, and Gillis. Channel 99 in Carlos and Grand Lake. Please either turn off or silence all electronic devices. At this time, I'd like to recognize Mr. Anthony Barty, police jury member, in our meeting tonight. Thank you. Okay. Take appropriate action to approve the minutes of February 18th, 2020 Planning and Zoning meeting. I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Navarre, second by Ms. Hyatt. All those in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Okay. Take action on VAR 0220-0124, a request by Calvary Apostolic Church of Starks, Louisiana, for a variance to allow a building .5 feet below the required freeboard elevation. Lowest required elevation is 34 feet, requesting 33.5 at Highway 113, at 113 Highway 109 North in Ward 5. I will entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Ms. Hyatt, second by Ms. Cobb. Ms. Tunn?
This property is in the Starks area and encompasses approximately 11 acres. Under the police jury's freeboard ordinance, the structure in question was to be elevated to 35 feet above mean sea level. The applicant requested a waiver on that requirement, which would have allowed the structure to be constructed at the elevation of the street center line, which is 33.2 feet. This office granted a waiver to 34 feet, which is the elevation requirement within the nearest FEMA-designated flood hazard area. When the structure was constructed, the final elevation was 33.5 feet, 6 inches less than the determined requirement. Granting this variance request relates only to the parish-imposed elevation requirement, as FEMA has no elevation requirements in this particular flood zone.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. There being no blue cards presented to us, does the board have any questions for the staff? Or any questions for the applicant? There being none, all those in favor state aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion passes. Take appropriate action on VAR-0220-0126, a request by Jerry Boyles et Ux for a variance to allow dwelling with less than required square footage, required 43,560 square feet, requesting 26,395 square feet at 5192 Winnie Drive in Ward 4. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Little made the motion.
Second.
Second by Coach Williams. Ms. Tunn?
This property is located in the Carlos area and encompasses 1.8 acres of single-family residential zone land. Currently on the property is the applicant's home. The applicant would like to divide the property into 2 tracts and intends to sell the tract with the existing home. Should the board approve the request, the applicant would like to build a smaller home on the larger tract. Because the proposed lot size is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the condition that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We have no blue cards on this item. Any of the board members have a question for staff? Do you have any questions for the applicant? There being none, all those in favor state aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I know there's opposition on the next item, number 8. Unfortunately, I don't believe the applicant for number 8 has made it in yet. So if the board wouldn't mind maybe pushing that one a little later on the meeting.
Okay, can we procedurally, can we move to?
I think you've got that discretion to move
Okay.
it back later in the meeting.
Okay. What if we moved it to the last item? Is that
That'll be fine.
of ordinary business? Okay, that will become item 23.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, now that item 8 becomes 23, we're going to move on to item 9, take appropriate action on EX-0120-0068, a request by Albert East III for an exception to allow a borrow pit, 9.25 acres, at 2197 Highway 109 South in Ward 7. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Tunn?
This property is in the Vinton area and encompasses approximately 44 acres of agricultural land. The applicant would like to excavate a 9.25 acre borrow pit. Upon completion, the pit would become a personal use pond. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development must be in accordance with Section 26-122IH4 of the Parish Code of Ordinances, that permitting is subject to approval of the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering, and that access is limited to Highway 109 South.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. There is no blue card presented for this item. Do any of the board members have questions for the staff? Being none, does any of the members have questions for the applicant? There being none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Item 10, take appropriate action on EX-0120-0069, a request by Emily Sue Gaspar for an exception and to expand an existing borrow pit from 4.96 acres to 10 acres in the 9200 block of Great House Road in Ward 3. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Tunn?
This property is located in South Lake Charles area and encompasses 32.6 acres of agricultural land. In 2018, the Division of Planning and Development approved a 4.96 acre borrow pit at this location. The applicant would like to expand the borrow pit to 10 acres. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development must be in accordance with Section 26-122(1H4) of the Parish Code of Ordinances, that a road damage bond in the amount determined by the parish engineer must be submitted to the Division of Engineering prior to issuance of a development permit, that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering, and that access is limited to Helms Road.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. There is no blue card on this item. Does any of the members have a question for the staff on this item? Do we have any questions from the board for the applicant? There being none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed state no. Motion passes. Number 11, take appropriate action on EX-0120-0070, a request by James LeBeau Jr. et al. For an exception to allow a borrow pit, 6 acres, at 2351 Highway 90 West in Ward 4. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Little, motion, second by Mr. Navarre. Ms. Tunn?
This property is in the Sulphur area and encompasses approximately 25 acres of agricultural land. The applicant would like to excavate a 6-acre borrow pit. Upon completion of the pit, the pit will become a personal use pond. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development must be in accordance with Section 26-122(1H4) of Parish Code of Ordinances, that permitting is subject to approval from the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development and the Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1, that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering, and that removed cubic yardage is limited to 231,000 cubic yards.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. There is no blue card on this item. Do any of the board members have a question for the staff on this item? If not, are there any questions for the applicant? There being none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion passes. Item 12, take appropriate action on EX-0120-0072, a request by D&G Construction LLC for an exception to allow a 5-year extension of an existing borrow pit in the 7,000 block of John Brennan Road in Ward 4. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Ms. Cobb made the motion. Ms. Hyatt made the second. Ms. Tunn?
This property is located in the Carlos area and encompasses 40 acres of agricultural land. In 2015, the board approved a 27-acre borrow pit with the condition that the excavation be completed within 3 years. The applicant has not removed the amount of material they had anticipated during the 3 years. Therefore, they are requesting a 5-year extension. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development must be in accordance with Section 26-122-1H4 of the Parish Code of Ordinances, excluding XIII, that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering, and that hauling must be completed within 5 years.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We have no blue card on this item. Do any of the board members have a question for the staff? Or do you have any questions for the applicant? There being none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed state no. Motion passes. Item 13, take appropriate action on EX-0220-0073, a request by J.S. Broussard Farms LLC for an exception to allow a 5-year extension of an existing borrow pit in the 3500 block of Ellis Moss Road in Ward 4. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Okay. Mr. Little made the motion, seconded by Ms. Cobb. Ms. Tunn?
This property is also in the Carlos area and encompasses approximately 90 acres of agricultural zone land. In 2016, the board approved 3 borrow pits totaling approximately 60 acres. The approval was granted for a 3-year period following permit issuance. Excavation has not begun at this site, therefore the applicant is requesting a 5-year extension. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development must be in accordance with Section 26-122-1H4I through XII of the Parish Code of Ordinances, that a road damage bond in the amount determined by the parish engineer must be submitted to the Division of Engineering prior to any hauling during this extension approval, that the runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering, and that hauling must be completed within 5 years.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We have no blue cards on this agenda item. Do any of the board members have questions for the staff? Or any board members have questions for the applicant? There being none, all those in favor state aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Item 14, take appropriate action on EX-0220-0074, a request by Loren Properties LLC for an exception to allow a 5-year extension of an existing borrow pit at 2691 Highway 90 in Ward 4. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Tunn?
This property is in the West Sulphur area and encompasses over 100 acres of agricultural zone land. In 2015, the applicant received approval to excavate a 29-acre borrow pit. The approval was granted for a 5-year period following permit issuance. The permit has expired, therefore the applicant is requesting a 5-year extension. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development must be in accordance with Section 26-122-1H4I through XII of the Parish Code of Ordinances, that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering, that hauling under this extension approval is subject to approval from the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development and the Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1, that usage of Pete Road and Shoe Peak Road as a hauling route is prohibited, and that hauling must be completed within 5 years.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We have no blue card on this agenda item. Are there any questions for the staff or the applicant? There being none, all those in favor state aye. Aye. Those opposed state no. Motion passes. Item 15. Take appropriate action on EX-0220-0075, a request by Norman Frugier to allow for an exception to allow commercial development, a pet crematory, at 9727-A Frugier Road in Ward 2. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Ms. Cobb made the motion, second by Coach Williams. Ms. Tunn?
This property is in the Hayes area and encompasses approximately 1 acre of agricultural zone land. The applicant is requesting to build a 30 by 45-foot metal building on the property to be used as a pet crematory. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and light source cannot be visible to the adjacent properties, and that all business operations and storage must be enclosed within the proposed building.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We have 2 blue cards against on this item. Ms. Yvette Shaughnessy?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you state your name and address for the record?
Okay, I'm not Ms. Shaughnessy, if that's who you're expecting. I'm the applicant.
Oh.
Yes, sir. Did you want to talk to Ms. Shaughnessy
No,
first?
go ahead.
Okay. My name is Leslie Frugier, and I'm the applicant for this business. I'm really excited for it. I understand that there are a few people that maybe just because they're not educated in what goes on with the crematory. I would like to point to the Lakeside Crematory that is at the corner of Ryan Street and Prion Lake Road, and it actually butts up to 210. And I'd like to note that at no time do you see smoke, smells, or ashes coming from that stack. Is it against the law to have that? And I plan on having a refrigerated van so that as I pick up pets, I guess is the best way to put it, they should already be frozen as I pick them up from the vet's office. There will be no smells at all. And I want to assure people that it's going to look like an innocuous barn with a mobile home, and it's just going to be like anything else on the landscape out in the agricultural area.
Okay.
So,
Do any of the board members have a question for Ms. Frugier?
yes, ma'am.
Is it gonna have a cemetery or?
No, ma'am. It is strictly a crematory to either return the ashes to the pet owners or for people who just want disposal. So it's either return or dispose, no pet cemetery. And I want to say, I don't expect any of my clients to come to the property. It's just going to be us. We'll collect from the vets. And if in the future we do go to the public with it, I would like to have a place here in town as a collection. I really don't want the traffic out in the country, and it's mostly my family who lives out there because that's all been my great-grandparents' land, and I do not want to upset the people that live out there with unnecessary traffic.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Frugier?
Yes. Leslie, do you, the ashes that the people do not take back home, is there a particular way you have to dispose of that or not?
I got with the state on that, and once an animal or a person for that matter is cremated, it is inert, there is no hazard there. And the state has said you can dispose of it however you want. You can put it in the trash, you can sprinkle it on the ground, that it is not a biohazard to anything. Thank you for the question.
Okay. But you are not going to have any disposal at your site?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Porcher?
You said you're going to prefer to pick up at the vet, will you allow people to drop off there?
If people want to, normally people who,
Because we're going to probably get a question, the traffic. So if you're allowing people, would that be scheduled by appointment only?
normally,
Or just random people
No.
pulling up their pets in the back?
no. Actually, when I work with the vets, and I have talked to quite a few, and I'm modeling this after a very good friend of mine who's been doing this for 11 years now. And when you pick up the vets, a pet at the vets, it's going to have been their client. That's going to be a pet that they have been to that vet for years and years and years. And most people who vet their animals are well taken care of. So when I go to the vet's offices, it's going to be one of their clients,
So, and this is just because social media now, if you have a Facebook or Instagram and you have your address there, people will see that and.
I have been told,
You're
don't.
You're getting calls and maybe someone show up.
Yeah. Well, you know what, in the end, when I say in the end, I think about loggerheads out there on the river. He started off small, and then he grew his business. So I'm in the beginning stages of a business, and my first is to start small. Call on the local vets, and there's 27 between Jennings, DeQuincy, DeRitter, and all in these areas. And really, that is my target, is the vets. It's easier for me. I can pick up at one place, I can return in one place. And I'm trying to make it affordable. All of this has been outsourced to Houston, and Houston comes to town on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I know Mr. Johnson, Zeb Johnson, has a funeral crematory, and people do go to him. But I think that there's enough room in our area for more than
So
one.
you will basically discourage people from just driving up.
Oh, I don't want that at
So
all.
we can say that, if anybody that's against it.
I don't want that. I don't want it published. I don't want my address known. And the reason I don't, and I tell you, is my friend who has one, she said, you don't want that. She said they will just start dropping dead animals off.
I mean, I can see that.
Yeah, no,
If your address is out there and you're advertising.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's my question then.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Rouget.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much. Okay. Okay.
No. Next up will be the opposition to this. We have two cards, one from Stephen Vance and Yvette Shaughnessy.
Stephen Vance, 6689 Gragg Road. First off, y'all have this area listed wrong. It's stated as Hayes, Louisiana. This isn't Hayes. Hayes is 15 miles from here. We're 9/10 of a mile from Cameron Parish is where I live at, just off of Highway 27, about 4 miles off of Highway 27. I moved there from Sulphur. My wife is originally from there. We moved there from Sulphur to get out of the industrialized area. And if we open this up to this pet crematory, then what else are we going to open it up to later on? Is this going to be opened up to an industrial park with all the LNG work coming up in Cameron? Possibly. There was already an airplane hangar there that's been there for years, and then it was sold, and then it was turned into a fab shop where they were fabricating boxes. Whenever my family first moved out there in about 2011, they were fabricating big boxes for offshore out there, and you had all the noise and all the traffic from the trucks and everything else running up and down Fruget Road there. And now you're going to open this up to a pet crematory. That's gone, but the property is for sale from what I understand. Or we're going to wind up with another fab shop in there? I don't know. LNG could, somebody that's servicing LNG could put a fab shop in there, and then we got another fab shop and a pet crematory and 230 acres of property right there that they could put anything else on that they decided they wanted to put on it. Can somebody explain to me what minimal impact to the neighborhood would be?
Staff?
Just a reminder that the comments are really not questions, they're just comments to whether
Right.
this board should take the actions being.
Right. All right. Well, I mean, I can't tell you what minimal impact is, but I think it's going to have a big impact. Like I say, I moved my family out there to raise them raise my kids in a country setting, and here we are, we're going to industrialize a neighborhood. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. Any questions by Mr. Boucher?
I just wanted to address the gentleman here. Just confirm that it's C1, the commercial zoning that's in question. Heavy industrial would be a completely different thing. That would be a huge leap from commercial.
Right.
So commercial zoning doesn't open the door to heavy industrial. That would be a totally different situation that we would look at, totally separate.
Right.
I just want to make sure we approve this. We're not setting a precedent for heavy industrial. It's
Right.
light commercial, C1.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Jane. Any other questions for Mr. Vance? Okay, Ms. Shaughnessy?
Yes, sir. Yvette Shaughnessy, 9491 Fruget Road. And I have two, I labeled them as repeal of the application involved as EX 02200075, where 31 of the neighbors have signed this. And part of their concern is how will this crematory be powered? Are they going to use, because in my backyard, there is a gas station that I know that Mr. Fruget uses to power his dryers, and that has not been maintained. The pipes are leaking. It runs through our yards and neighborhoods where our kids and grandkids play, and they come out, they'll do patchwork. These pipes have been there since I was a kid, and I grew up right next door to where my house is. I can tell you that currently the amount of traffic is unsafe now, so I would hate to see what's going to happen when this comes in. And I called Johnson's this morning to find out, and they do local pet cremations. I don't know about the Texas that she was talking about, but I do know that a lot of the vets will send the animals to Johnson's to be cremated and then return them to the people, because I've called some of the vets as well. So all I can say is that we are not for this. We strongly oppose it, because once you open this to one trailer and one apartment and one little business, and as she mentioned, expanding later, and then how are you going to send these animals back? And how are you going to keep it from being publicized? With Facebook, there's no way that you're going to keep this on a low profile. And that's just where I stand. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Any questions for Ms. Shaughnessy? Thank you, Ms. Shaughnessy. Mr. Vance?
Do you guys want this?
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Is that a petition?
Yes, would you
Yes.
like to see it?
Sure. Can you take it up? Sure. Sure.
Mr. President,
Yes.
question for the staff. From what I saw, when we looked at this earlier, when I looked at this earlier, and looking at our plot plans, I
think she said she had like 31 signatures. I don't know how far out from this area are those residents, because what I've seen, I don't know if there's 31 people within a mile or a mile and a half radius of this facility. Am I just overlooking that from what I've observed?
It's a very rural area.
Right.
Well,
You know, so there's limited residents,
Yes.
you know, that are living here. I mean, there are some, you know, obviously, but it's a very rural area.
And that's what I saw also, but with these many signatures, that's why I was.
And I don't, again, I haven't seen that, so I'm not sure where those signatures are coming from, where they're located, so.
Yes. Thank you.
May I be allowed to address one of their concerns? I'm not going to use a gas line. It's going to be propane. It's going to be on-site. And, you know, I've got 2 vehicles, maybe 3, you know, because I'm going to have refrigerated vans. When I say at the most, it's going to be 2, we're talking about a 3-person operation. And when I mean expand, I don't mean grow the property. I meant, by expanding, I meant if we at one point decided to have a collection office in Lake Charles, not build more buildings, not make more traffic out there.
Okay. I'm going to make the assumption that this is regulated and you will be visited, inspected.
I'm sure, because I have got to report to the DEQ. I'm going to have to report to them every year, and they're going to have to know how many pounds, because, you know, I'm going to have to pay a fee to them. So everything is going to be recorded. I do expect to have some kind of compliance officers. From what department, I'm not really sure. You know, and by expanding, this is going to start small. There won't be a mobile home out there at first. It's going to be small, you know, it's going to be small.
Okay. Ms. Cobb?
They said stated that you get a sale. Do you have
No, I don't. The airport that they were talking about years ago, my dad had an airport here in Lake Charles, East Lake Charles Airport, and then when Boeing came in, he moved his business out to the farm. And after Hurricane Rita, he had already stopped using it as an airport, and after Hurricane Rita, and it sustained some damage, he actually sold it to a tank farm from a company in Cameron so that they could evacuate their tanks up in the event that there was another hurricane down on the Gulf. And who owns it right now, I'm not really sure. I don't really know who owns that building. But every time I've been out there, I can tell you I haven't seen a thing. It's quiet. I don't know if there's even a business functioning there right now. But-
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Navarre?
The gentleman that spoke said it wasn't in Hayes. What is that, a Hayes address?
Actually, it's a Bell
Bell
City
City,
address.
yeah.
It's a Bell City address. It's a route. It's probably about 4 miles from the Homewood corner. You know where Homewood is, down Highway 14?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And then Highway 27 goes south from there. And as you go south, there's a little zigzag in the road. That's Pine Pasture Road. You take a left, and it's just about right there. You know?
I would say this is less than a third of a mile from the Cameron Parish line,
Probably a half a mile.
half mile?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Jake?
Make a comment on something I am familiar with as far as the gas lines. That's going to be done as per code with inspections, and it's going to be a certified propane company that comes in, puts the lines, and the inside she'll have, someone certified. We all have to find that.
Well, I think what they were referring to, and I'm familiar with all of this. I know her father.
Yeah.
I think years ago, you had a lot of these pipeline companies that would provide natural gas to irrigation wells and maybe to bin sites. I don't think that happens any longer.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's what she was referencing when she made references to
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
I've been told natural gas is not available to me.
Sure.
Okay.
My
Okay.
family told me that. So,
That's it.
Okay.
okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
She has the next,
Right, item 16 as well.
would you like for her to step out, or could she just stay in for that?
That's fine. She can stay right there.
Okay.
Ms. Christie, roll call vote?
Mr. Porsche?
Yes.
Mr. Navarre,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yeah.
Ms. Dickerson,
Yes.
Ms. Cobb, Mr. Little,
Yes.
Mr. Dubrock,
Yes.
Ms. Hyatt, 8 for.
Motion passes. Next item, take appropriate action on VAR-0220-0127, a request by Norman Frugier for a variance to allow 2 dwellings with less than required public frontage requiring 250 feet, requesting 0, and less than required square footage, required 87,120 square feet, requesting 43,560 square feet at 9727-A Frugier Road in Ward 2. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Navarre, second by Coach Williams. Ms. Tunn?
This property is the same as the previous case. Mr. Frugier intends to donate a 1-acre tract of land to his daughter. She intends to construct an apartment within the 30 by 45-foot building, and she also intends to place a manufactured home on the property for her daughter to reside in. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file, the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that the manufactured home be skirted prior to the utilities being connected, and that a predial servitude be recorded with the new lot.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. Does the board have any questions for this matter to the staff? Or to Ms. Frugier, for that matter? Or
I
Ms.
have a
Frugier, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I do. I've been working on this donation for this land, and because y'all asked me to list the predial servitude with it, I have it on here. This is just not signed yet. I did go to the tax assessor's office today, and I let her go over this to see if it was acceptable the way it was, and she told me, yes, it was. She said you might need to talk to the board. They might have different ideas about that. So I brought it up here, and I just wanted to ask if it's going to be okay the way it is, if it's okay with the tax assessor's office.
Right now, we're not dealing with.
No,
Right now, we're not dealing with the technicalities. Right now, we're just dealing with the use
Okay.
of the land.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, we're just saying it has to have a predial service.
Okay, all right.
We'll take care of the details if they grant this.
Well, okay. I'm putting the cart before the horse, I guess.
okay. Again, we have some blue cards for this item as well from Mr. Vance and Ms. Shaughnessy.
Yes, sir.
So we'll offer them the opportunity to come in.
Yes, sir.
That's the last one. Ms. Shaughnessy?
Hi. Well, I have this other petition with the same signatures, but, I mean, since you guys passed that one, I'll just put this on there for the record. That's it.
Okay, Mr. Vance?
The petitions are signed by everybody in the neighborhood, with the exception of probably 5, 8 people, I guess. So there you have that.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions by any of the members? There being none, Ms. Christie, roll call vote.
One moment, please. Ms. Hyatt? Mr. Porsche?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah.
Ms. Cobb? Mr. Little?
Yes.
Ms. Dickerson?
Yes.
Mr. Dubrock?
Yes.
Mr. Navarre?
Yes.
8 for.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Motion passes. Item 17, take appropriate action on RZ-0220-0160, a request by James Simmons Eddux to rezone from agricultural to general commercial, C2, to allow commercial development and auto shop at 5754 River Road in Ward 8. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Dunn?
Before you is a signed letter of no objection for Mr. Simmons. It should be in front of you with the packet. This property is located in the Laboux settlement area and encompasses 5 acres of agricultural land. Currently on the property is an existing shop and 2 manufactured homes. The applicant has been utilizing the shop as an auto service shop. Due to the property not being zoned for this type of business, the applicant would like to rezone to general commercial. Because the proposed zoning is not consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends the request be denied. Should the board grant the request, the staff recommends the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light source cannot be visible to the adjacent properties, that screening must be provided in accordance with Section 26-50 of the Parish Code of Ordinances, that lounges are prohibited, that an occupational license must be obtained within 5 business days, that the rezoning be in accordance with the final zoning map, and the final zoning map has a change in it. It shows light industrial, but it should be general commercial.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Mr. Simmons?
Yes, James Simmons, 104 Villa Drive, Westlake. What I was trying to do is correct the zoning. Our family's owned this property for probably at least 35 years. I personally own this for the last 15 years. And my son-in-law is wanting to run a mechanic shop there. This property, we only have but 3 other neighbors. I think we submitted a form to y'all showing that our adjoining neighbors, which is only the 3 of them, has no problem with us continuing to do a mechanic shop there. The property, the shop sits off the road at least 800 feet. It's well maintained. We have a pretty pond out front. It's the lawn is mowed like everybody's yard is mowed on a regular basis, and the main thing is just trying to help your son-in-law. And this is not no big mechanic shop. It's something that they want to try to do. They live on the property already, and they'd like to be able to run a business for themselves and grow, hopefully, you know. And the shop's there, so it helps them a lot to be able to provide for their family, because they don't have to go out and rent something at this time. And so I'd like to do it for them. And we've got real good relationship with people around there. We know everybody, and where we're at, we only have 3 neighbors. We're not in a heavy area at all, and the shop sets 800 feet off the road. So it's even hard to see, to be honest. You've got to look for it to be able to see it. The shop is it's a steel metal building, done in very good taste, and something that I've always wanted for myself, and built it. But everything is done in good taste, is what I'm saying. So it's not really bothering anybody. Across the street from us, there's a tower that's been there for years, just catty-corner. It's probably not from our front entry. It's probably catty-corner maybe 100 feet or so, maybe 150 feet away. That's been there. But I was just wanted to make sure y'all understood where we was at, that we weren't, right on top of the road, and so I was just hoping maybe if y'all had any questions, I wanted to make sure y'all understood, because I know it was recommended that was not going to be able to be approved, because we was kind of the first one, going to apply for application for a commercial, and I know somebody's got to be the first one. I guess we're the first one, unfortunately, that's going to have to ask for that permission. But I'd really appreciate if we could, if y'all would consider that, because it would just help them be able to provide for his family.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Simmons?
Question I got, Mr. Chairman, is I know the staff did a good job, but it's not consistent with the character of the area. So somebody give me an explanation. Saying they have about 3 houses, so what must affect the character of the area in some form.
Mr. President, Mr. Williams, when we're looking at land use and when somebody's zoning a piece of property, I mean, we're looking at the general zoning map or the zoning map for the parish, and we're looking at if there's anything else in that general vicinity that would be anything like this. And we didn't see anything that was that fit the character of that. Mr. Simmons is correct. I mean, this is a very rural area. Most of this area is rural residential. He is correct in the fact that this shop, it sits well off the road. I actually drove out there, and it's not easy to see from the road, so he is correct about that. But when we say out of character, it's not in character with what the zoning map or what's generally taking place out there at this point in time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Cobb?
My concern is that about how many cars does he have out there at a time? I've passed places, people got cars, old cars parked in there, and it takes away from the surrounding area.
Yes, ma'am. And I would assure you that if you drove out there, you'd be wondering if there's anything going on. I've got lots of compliments. I stay on my mower a lot out there. I enjoy mowing. I enjoy, taking care of the property. And it's a pretty piece of property. In fact, if I could talk to my wife, I'd like to move out there on the front of it. But, she's happy where she's at. But no, it's well maintained. There will never be any cars that will be stored out there or anything like that. I mean, as far as, it's well maintained. I've ended up spending quite a bit of money. I got in trouble over it for building this shop, and you get kind of carried away, and it's kind of one of them things that I've always wanted, and we worked hard to get it. And the biggest thing is that they know how I feel about maintaining things, and they live on the property, so it really makes it easy for them because they live in more toward the front. So it makes it nice for them to be able to raise their family still, because they got 2 young kids. And Crystal, my daughter, can be there at the house, and JD is out there doing work. He's worked for several of the dealerships in town. He's a hard worker. He's very good to my daughter, and that's what makes you want to help him, because the fact is that I'm very particular about certain things, and part of that is keeping a nice yard and stuff. But this, they will never have anything that would take away from the value of the property, by no means.
But how many cars?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll be honest, they're growing. They don't have a whole lot of business. Their business is usually just word of mouth. Somebody needs service work. Sometimes it goes back to just oil changes. They do tune-ups, AC work, stuff like that. But far as it's just a real small area, small business growing. And but just to tell you exactly how many cars go there a day, maybe 3 or 4 at the most. It's not a heavy traffic area at all.
Mr. Porsche?
Ms. Cobb had my first question. As far as the size of the shop, your business could expand to be quite large. So,
now if I can explain, I'll tell you how it happened.
Sure.
When they first, come to me, we had the front shop, and it was only but the 80 foot, And I kept my motor home in there. That, it was about me being able to keep my motor home inside of it. And because the roof line was only at 12 foot high, I couldn't, it takes a 14-foot door to get the motor home through.
Sure.
So I put a door on the very end, the gable end, and when you pull the motor home inside, you pretty much just killed 50 feet of the 80-foot shop, so it didn't leave but 30 feet. So then they asked me, you know, and I just suggested that I would add on to the shop. The back part is where I unfortunately keep some of my toys.
Sure.
My motor home's there. They have an RV as well, and we love to camp and stuff like that. We do a lot of stuff together as a family. So the back shop is really not for them to use. It's really, I guess, my man cave, you might say. The motor home stays in there. Their RV stays there, and it's got a 14-foot door height, so I can pull it straight in.
Sure.
And so time you park a boat in there and a couple RVs and stuff, you just pretty much, it goes away fast.
That's great points, and it leads me to my next point. When we make a decision like this,
Yes, sir.
we can't just make it
Yes, sir.
on you owning it
Yes,
for
sir.
forever or till the end of time. Your yard, I can look at these pictures. I haven't personally been out there, but I can see that you keep your stuff up.
Yeah, thank you.
But this zoning will forever be with this property.
Yes, sir.
And that's why we have to consider the neighbors and
Right.
everything, because 20, 30 years from now, we can't undo this.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It will forever, unless someone comes and wants to rezone back, which usually never happens. But, so, I just wanted you seem like a, you know, I believe everything you're saying
Right.
about how you keep up your property, how only a portion of this will be used for this and that. But
Right.
we are approving a really large shop that could
Right.
expand long after you own it.
Right.
And would it be a burden on the
Right.
neighbors? So that's,
I was just,
all I had to
if I
say.
could say this,
Sure.
you know, I've got 2 girls, and pretty much that's going to be their inheritance, and we made a very point that my folks own the property, and my dad wanted to make it very clear that he didn't never want it to be sold, and that was the reason that I ended up buying it, because you know, we wanted to maintain the property, and that's going to be my wishes as well. You know, that the property
and
never
this
sold.
list here is the neighbors
Yes, sir.
directly around
That's,
you?
one of my brother, that
Okay.
he's right next to us. He feels the same way. And then the next neighbor close, they're approximately probably 500 feet away. We've been knowing them for a long time, and there's one other neighbor directly across the street from us, and that's the only houses.
Mr. Chair, do we have any blue cards in opposition on this one?
No, we do not.
Okay.
No. The only blue card we had, and I didn't say it because the applicant was standing there as his
Okay.
for, so.
All right. That's all the questions I had. Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr.
Any
Simmons.
other questions for Mr. Simmons? Thank you, Mr. Simmons.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions by the board to the staff? There being none, Ms. Christie, roll call vote.
Mr. Navarre,
No.
Mr. Williams,
No.
Ms. Dickerson,
Yes.
Mr. Porsche,
No.
Mr. Dubrock,
Yes.
Ms. Hyatt,
Yes.
Mr. Little,
No.
Ms. Cobb,
No.
5 against and 3 for.
Motion fails. Next item. Take appropriate action on RZ-0320-0161, a request by Darrell Abear et al. To rezone light commercial C1 to general commercial C2 to allow commercial development of mini warehouses at 5846 Tom Abear Road in Ward 3. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Navarre, second by Coach Williams. Ms. Dunn?
You should have a revised brief for this case. This property is located in the South Lake Charles area and encompasses approximately 1.8 acres of light commercial zone land. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to general commercial to develop a 200-unit mini warehouse storage facility. Because the proposed development is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light source cannot be visible to the adjacent properties, that screening must be provided on the north property line in accordance with Section 26-50 of the Parish Code of Ordinances prior to final electrical approval, that the development adhere to stormwater best management practices, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. There's no blue cards on this item. Do any of the members have questions on this item for the staff? Or questions for the applicant? There being none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Item 19, take appropriate action on VAR-0320-0129, a request by Darrell Hebert et al. For a variance to decrease the required number of parking spaces, required 21 spaces, requesting 12 spaces at 5846 Tom Hebert Road in Ward 3. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Tunn?
This variance is in conjunction with the previous case. The applicant is requesting to decrease the number of parking spaces for the proposed commercial development. With the total number of warehouse units, the applicant is required to have 21 parking spaces. The applicant is requesting 12 spaces. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the condition that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during the development.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. Again, we have no blue card on this item. Does the board have any questions for the staff and or the applicant? There being none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Okay. Item 20 has been withdrawn. I should have
That is
announced
correct.
that when we
Item
started. Sorry about that.
20 has been withdrawn.
Item 20 has been withdrawn. We will not hear that one at this meeting. Item 21, take appropriate action on RZ-0320-0163, a request by Raymond Crosby to rezone from mixed residential R2 to recreational vehicle park R-RVP to allow recreational vehicle park 4 spaces at 3406 Myrtle Springs Road in Ward 4. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Tunn?
This property is in the Westlake area and encompasses 1.06 acres of mixed residential zone land. The applicant intends to develop a 4-space recreational vehicle park at this location. The proposed RV park would be located behind the existing house that is located on the property. Because the proposed zoning is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light source cannot be visible to the adjacent properties, that screening must be provided in accordance with Section 26-50 of the Parish Code of Ordinances, and that RV park model types are prohibited.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We have no blue cards on this item. Any members of the board have a question for the staff or the applicant on this matter? There being none, all those in favor state aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Okay, item 8, which is the item we're going to hear now. Okay. Take appropriate action on VAR-0320-0128, a request by Sherry Sandifer for a variance to allow 2 dwellings with less than required lot square footage, required 87,120 square feet, requesting 60,113 square feet at 6662 Oak Lake Drive in Ward 4. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Dickerson, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Tunn?
In front of you, you have a revised site plan for this case. This property is in the South Sulphur area and encompasses 1.38 acres of agricultural land. Currently on the property is the applicant's home. If approved, the applicant intends to place a manufactured home on the property to care for her aunt, who will be residing in the manufactured home. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the revised site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, and that the manufactured home be skirted prior to utilities being connected.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. Are you the applicant, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Would you state your name and address?
Sherry Sandifer, 6662 Oak Lake Drive, Sulphur, Louisiana.
Thank you. Do you have comments you'd like to make regarding this?
The only comment I had is I'm doing this for family. I'm adding the mobile home for my aunt, who's 77 years old, that I can keep an eye on her. She'll be right next door to me. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. Any of the board members have a question for Ms. Sandifer? No. Thank you, ma'am. We have one blue card for general comments. Ms. Peggy Sullivan.
Hello, thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Peggy Sullivan. I live at 6707 Oak Lake Drive. I am right south of this property, and I know that this is an old homestead because I've been out there for about 45 years. And I actually own 6 acres right across the street, and then my home is on 2 acres south of her. And then I own another acre that has 1 mobile home on it, and I have another acre that has 1 mobile home on it. And I'm concerned about downsizing this lot to have 2 dwellings on it, because this has been a homestead for a very, very long time, even before I was there. I met a lot of the people that own the homestead. I guess you would say that the thing I have is about downsizing the lot, because I also have another large acreage on the west side of me that they have just done they've tore a bunch of trees down. They've even made a boat slip there. I have no idea what they're fixing to do with it. But I know from previous experience that once you downsize property, you're opening the door. I was just maybe, I hate to tell somebody that owns property what you can do with it, because, you know, that's your right to own your own property. And I have 10 acres and I'm very proud of it. But I didn't know if maybe you could do some stipulation that this could be maintained as a family dwelling, and is, you know, keep it in the family, not, I know y'all know what y'all can do about this, but just some little stipulation that you can maybe help not open the door to let a big trailer park across the street from me, which I've lived there for 45 years. I appreciate your time.
Ms. Sullivan, you say you live west of this property?
No, I live south of her
South,
property.
okay, okay.
It's actually, we've got a big S-curve, you know? I'm in between the S-curves.
Okay,
But I'm just south of her.
okay. Any questions from the board from Ms. Sullivan? Thank you, Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Just
I
so
was
you-
going to, but go ahead.
Just so you know, I know she has some concern about, she mentioned, maybe somebody coming in and doing a mobile home park. Obviously, that's going to have to be rezoned in order to do that. Other thing I want to point out is the property on the east side of Oak Lake Drive, it's all heavy industrial. It's currently zoned heavy industrial. There's a multitude of things that can go on that property right there. And so I think, the other thing too, I think there were some properties in this general area that were similar in size, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's what I was going to point out, is that when you look at the division based on the map we
Yeah.
provided, doing that would make it the same size as the rest of them
Yeah,
on Winnie Drive.
Yeah, and that's what we look at. We look at, the pattern, to see if there's a similar pattern there.
Okay. Ms. Sandifer, you have any comments you'd
Well,
like
the
to
only
make?
comment, I just, I understand what she was asking for the stipulation. I just don't know how that will impact the future. My children, whenever I go, I don't plan on selling my property, but I don't know how that's going to affect future owners of that property, which would probably be my children. So I'm happy to go along with anything that y'all have to offer, but I have a problem putting a stipulation that it has to stay family.
Okay. Mr. Porsche?
I'm interested to get the staff's opinion, if it's changed in the past. I've been here a little bit, but the problem with some of these stipulations, if we would do that, is policing them. And I'm usually of the opinion, I would like to get the staff's take on how do you police what has to be a family member, it's not, well, he's a third cousin.
Well, if you recall, we used to do that many years
I
ago.
remember.
And we stopped doing that.
We did.
Because it's hard, it is very difficult
Yes.
to police
Correct.
when you put that kind of stipulation on that. I would suggest you don't do that.
Right. I was going to say, just my opinion, we either approve it or not. The whole stipulation thing gets very grayish, Mr. Navarre. No.
Mr. Navarre?
Could we put a stipulation for 10 years? If she's 77 now, and 87, she can always come back for an extension.
So you're putting a stipulation that she can only stay there for 10 years? Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
for staff.
10 years. Not 10.
I would, do I have the floor?
Yes, you have the floor.
Mr. Navarre, I appreciate, what we're trying to do here and appease, Ms. Sullivan. I'm just telling you, those kind of stipulations where it just puts a burden on the staff to try to go back out there and police, because we don't know, in 10 years, I have no idea, who's going to be here, who's going to go out there and see. I mean, I don't know how you do it. Do you go to the door, you knock on the door and say, hey, can I see your license, or I don't know. I think it's just difficult to do.
Okay.
You can consult with the attorney.
Well, you guys have handled it very well, and as Mr. Porsche stated a couple of items ago, you look at land use, and right now you're looking at the required lot square footage, trying to put a stipulation on who can be there, who can't. That does become pretty burdensome and onerous and hard to monitor. And I have been the one that has tried to get this board away from putting those types of stipulations on it, on property like this, on requests like this. So I would counsel very strongly against it.
Thank you, Mr. Gale. Any questions for Ms. Sandifer? Thank you, Ms. Sandifer.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Christie? Roll call vote?
Mr. Little,
Yes.
Mr. Navarre,
Yes.
Ms. Cobb,
Yes.
Mr. Porsche,
Yes.
Ms. Dickerson,
Yes.
Ms. Hyatt,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Dubrock,
Yes.
8 for.
Motion passes. Item 22. The next item on the agenda is to advise that the police jury took the following action February 20th, 2020, with reference to the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board from February 18th, 2020 meeting. Casino Land, Elliswood Drive, Planning and Zoning recommended approval, police jury approved. Ormontour Ventures, Highway 397, Planning and Zoning recommended approval, police jury approved. The next item is the next item on the agenda is to advise that the next regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning meeting will be held Tuesday, June 6th, 2020.
16.
Okay, I'm sorry, June 16th.
Mr. Chairman.
Before we adjourn, I would like to take this opportunity to recognize Mr. Gary Navarre for 19, I think is what you told us, years of service.
18 years and 10 months.
We'll call it
18 or
19.
10. We'll round up. 11 months. Thank you. Thank you for your
It's been a
service.
pleasure. I learned a lot.
Yes. Mr.
Mr.
Crane?
Chair, I just want to thank Mr. Navarre for serving on this board for that many years. I mean, obviously, he's seen a lot of things come and go, and we just appreciate your service, and we knew where you stood, which is good. No, sir.
Always.
We appreciate that, and good luck with whatever, you do in your family, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion for adjourn?
I'll motion.
Motion?
I would like to publicly compliment Mr. Art Little on his beard. He looks very distinguished and 10 years younger.
We have a motion on the floor to adjourn. Is there a second?
I second.
Second, Mr. Porsche. Meeting is adjourned.